Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. I totally need to go take a shower. Ugh, yeah, I feel very greasy. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make some videos real quick before I go travel. Oh my gosh, I'm already so tired and I'm probably going to be really tired tomorrow. I also had a class in Finland that started at like 5 a.m. So I will probably definitely sleep on this flight, and that's great and all that. Okay, I just washed my Yeti that I brought from Finland and it needs to dry. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about today, like just the concept of home ownership and why it's such a weird thing. And, I'm getting to this point where it's like, I don't really want to talk to people about it because it's kind of eliciting the same reaction as like when I used to tell people I worked at NASA. So I just kind of would like super avoid it unless I absolutely like had to explain that to people. Now I mention it a little bit more casually, and I still hope that people are not going to freak out when I do that. And it's a 50-50 bet, and I just became desensitized. So maybe we'll get to that point here too. But, I was talking to my friend yesterday. I'm like, I don't really like understand why people don't understand the concept of like owning something and why it's like seen as like such a big deal. I'm like, it's like something that everybody does at some point in their life. It's just like a thing. It's like you get a job, like you get married, you have a kid. Like, I mean, those are like pretty big deals, probably, except the getting a job one. But depends on the job, whatever. Like NASA, that was a big deal. Yeah, I get it. But I was like, well, what about like, and I start naming, I love the word in Russian, rovesniki, because they don't have it in English, and we really should have a word like this, but, like people who are the same age as you. I'm like, well, what about like these guys we grew up with who like, they own homes? And then she's like, yeah, but they bought their homes like before the economy went to crap. And then she's like, you don't understand how bad the economy is. And I'm like, I guess the way I look at it is it's like most people aren't going to be homeless and most people are going to have to live somewhere, so something's going to have to give at some point. And I guess the other thing too is it's sort of like maybe one of these things I have a little bit of low empathy for. And this is actually a psychological phenomenon by which if you go through something hard and then somebody else is going through something hard and then you watch them going through that hard thing, you're actually less empathetic because you're like, oh, well, I came out on the other side of it, so why can't you? And it's kind of messed up, but like it's interesting that that is a thing. So I guess with the owning a home thing, it's sort of like to me getting a job. It's like, you just keep sending out applications and you do what you need to do until you can get a job. I did that in Finland. I don't particularly feel like doing that right now. But, that is a thing that must be done. And with, the housing market, like I've been on the hunt since like a year and a half ago. So it's like, this isn't really like a coincidence. This is just, I was like pretty on top of it, and a combination of like getting lucky. And then, also I was like, well, I don't think there's anything too impressive about owning like a 1-bedroom apartment. And she's like, yeah, well, most people don't want to live in that. Like most people do want to live in houses. Most people are more comfortable living in a house at home with their parents than having to move into a 1-bedroom when they're used to living in a house. And I totally get that. Like, I don't think I necessarily want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment for the rest of my life, but it is sort of the only option that's available to me. And I just sort of find it laughable that this is the standard that which people are like, it elicits that kind of reaction. And so I was talking to my friend about this, and she's like, well, in what instances is this happening? And I'm like, religious community instances. And then she's like, well, aren't you like the only person of your demographic, like your age there? And I'm like, yeah, kind of, sort of. She's like, well, that's why, because people always give a crap about what young people are doing. And I'm like, well, what about in Finland? And then she's like, well, most people in Finland, are students and they don't really have a plan and they don't really know what they're doing with their lives. So the fact that you kind of are like settling down more or less by buying something, it's like they don't really like get it, or it's sort of like it seems like a big deal, but it's because they don't really understand like the level of commitment you're coming in with. And it's like, yeah, you're in the PhD program, and yeah, you're doing that for the residence permit, and like, yeah, you need a place to live during that, but most people would still like opt to rent in that situation. I'm like, that's fine, but I think buying is really for when you decide there are areas that you really like that you'd like to stay in. And when you've already kind of explored other options for, like renting is good for if you want something to be temporary. Buying is good for if you don't. And yeah, like, I guess maybe there is a component of like the economy has really changed. My one friend has explained to me like, well, prior to 2020, like I could have bought something. And I was like, that's cool, because you had like a real job already. You have to understand my real job situation only started like within the last 2 years. So yeah, not really like too much time to have been able to like get a proper mortgage and like, you know, be available and open to those options because I did stay in school for so long. So yeah, it's maybe just like the people that I'm interacting with, but I do find it kind of like, pathetic is a strong word, but like I'm just like, why is this not normal? And yeah, I guess part of it is the economy, and it's just like I get confused reading these articles that are complaining about the birth rate in the US declining, and I'm like, well, usually people like want to have their own house before they're going to have a kid. So like if you can't get into your own house, like why are you going to have a kid? Like I guess that's part of the thing too. I don't know, like it's just the whole situation today is so much different than when my parents were alive. And then the other thing my one friend is saying to me is like, well, you know, nobody's getting married and then you're not having a dual income situation, then it's making it a lot harder to be able to afford a property. And I'm like, that's true. Like I really think that the US could probably benefit from transitioning into doing what the Nordic countries have already done, which is building a lot more like studio apartment things and encouraging independent living, because I do think roommates suck. Like, sorry, I hate to say it, but it's sort of like if you get to a point where you just want to be able to like take care of yourself and live separately from your parents, gain some independence, like it does probably make sense to like have your own studio. So I don't know. I wish that things were different here, and I do think that there are going to need to be some big changes, but like I said, I just find it so bizarre. And so then I Googled, like, well, what's the average age for owning a home now? I'll be honest, when I first started looking at the market, it said 36. Now it's up to 38. I don't know how it jumped that much in, like, less than 2 years, but yeah, so I'm like, okay, so I'm, like, almost 10 years ahead of schedule. Maybe. But then it's like, we're talking about probably homes and single-family homes, not like I'm buying, like, an apartment to go live in. So, I don't know. And also, I think the other thing that's kind of weird about it is it's like, you know, renting also makes more sense if it's cheaper than buying, but we're not really in a situation right now where renting is cheaper than buying. So moving out just to keep renting something to be in an area that you know you want to stay in, like, what? I don't know, because I think that's the beauty of renting, is renting gives you a lot of flexibility, and that's why people are interested in it. But for me, I just am like, I don't want flexibility anymore. I kind of want to lock it in. Like, it's just how I'm starting to feel. I did all the flexible stuff. It's cool for a bit, and then it gets old. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah, there's that. I don't know, but I'm just curious to see like what changes are going to be had. And you know, everybody talks about the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer, but like people are still alive and they still need a place to live. So like, where are they going to go? Like, and I kind of really am interested to see like how this is all going to play out. And you know, maybe it's going to be awkward sitting on the side of like actually owning something, but then, you know, what if I lose my job? What if I get evicted? Like, I doubt that will happen, but you know, like, who knows? Nobody knows what could happen to you in life. So I don't know. I was really trying to understand like why it's such a big deal. And it's so like weird to me that it's a big deal. Like, that's the only way I can explain it. Maybe this is part of my like extremely like long-sighted, not short-sighted, that doesn't sound right, far-sighted, there we go, you know, vision for the future, and like just kind of knowing what I like and don't like at this point, and what I want and don't want. And you know, I think that was kind of the thing that my friend was saying, is like you have a lot more clarity than most people. Sounds weird, but because, you know, I feel like I am like back and forth and indecisive with certain things, but I always feel like decisions are very easy to make if you 100% know you want that thing. It's probably like when you get married and you know it's the one. No, I don't know. Maybe that's how it feels. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really even sure I believe in that, to be honest. No, I actually don't. But that's a separate discussion. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to moving, though. I feel like I can't wait to, like, put stuff away and be super OCD and, like, clean my house every day like I do in Finland. I literally sweep and vacuum, like, every day. I love it. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Still messing around with mortgage stuff, speaking of which I need to follow up with that today. That's the thing that needs to get done, and then I'm going to be in San Diego, and then when I come back, it's going to be awesome, because then I'm hopefully moving in. Oh, it's going to be a lot of stress, but it's going to be very rewarding, just like most things in life. Alright, I need to go get on the train soon to go to the airport. Yay! Alright, until next time, bye.